Heyo, this is your host, Rusty James. It is Thursday, October 1st, 2015, and this is The Ride. Well, I'm changing things up a little bit for you today because I didn't record this until mid-afternoon because I was home doing chores and waiting for the internet guy to take care of us. Now that we're taken care of, I am off to work. Before I left, I noticed our little doggy Ginger was out playing with the kids. We have a friend over today. My son Seth has a friend that stayed the night, and got to the point where I was thinking of inventing a sign. You know, the kind of sign. In fact, I think I'm going to do it. It says in a rather hillbilly-ish font, "We don't believe in roughhousing here, but we do believe in rough outdoorsing." So that's where the kids went. They went outdoors. And somehow our dog found her way out by herself. Normally she is always on a leash, always has been on a leash. And she found a way out without being leashed. And she was very well behaved. Didn't look like she was running off to and fro, not too far away from the kids. So I'm wondering, she's a domesticated animal, which means she knows where certain boundaries are. You don't go to the bathroom in the house, that kind of stuff. I wouldn't dare take a wild goat into my house for fear that might happen. She's wild. But our dog has been trained. But our dog, I noticed that our dog does things that are naturally wild. It's crazy. Our dog is a smaller dog. She's a Maltipoo. A Maltese mixed with a poodle. And it's funny because she'll get on a bed and she'll start trying to dig through the pillow. I think she likes the sound of it. But I think that they're naturally wanting to burrow and find rodents and things like that. So even though she's domesticated, she still has a wild side. She knows where the rules are, but what's inbred in her is still there. It's not quenched. And we'll just sit and watch her try to dig through that pillow for 30 minutes. It's funny. We have a wild side. I'm not talking about the crazy, uninhibited, natural side of us. And I'm talking about we have a wild side. We have a wild side to who we are. You know what it is? It's what's bred into you. And who's the breeder? God bred into you, if I can use that word rather loosely, because he created you. And you have unique things about you that are just absolutely you. I heard somewhere that, because China has 1 billion people, or over 1 billion people, that if you're 1 in a million in China, there's 1,000 people just like you. But you know what? Even in China, everyone's got this unique, wild, God-given wild side. And I don't want us to get that quenched. I don't want us, as we follow the Lord, I don't want us to feel like we need to be somebody else. Do you know what I mean? Certainly, we need to put to death the deeds of the flesh. The Bible is clear on that. Okay? So, we've already talked about this a lot where we say, we really shouldn't be saying things like, well, I'm this or I'm that kind of person, and that's just how it's going to be. And, my uncle was the same way, and, or, Aunt Phyllis was an alcoholic, so I'm going to be, that's just ridiculous talk, okay? You need to nip that in the bud now. But, those unique things that are in you, and I believe God put them there, even if you don't know God yet. I believe that He put those there. So, you may be wondering, well, I don't, this Christianity thing is kind of new to me. I don't know. It seems like every time people talk to me about it, they're wanting to change me into somebody I'm not. I don't think that's how God works. He certainly does want us to change away from the deeds of the flesh. And that may be hard for some people to take, even that. But if you recognize that those deeds of the flesh are spiraling you down really toward death, and that's what the Bible says, is that sin leads ultimately to death. And we're talking a spiritual death, a separation from God kind of death, the kind of thing you do not want. But if you can recognize that, okay, yes, I understand, I need to renew my mind about certain things. I need to realize that I don't need to depend on all those trappings of the natural world that always brought me satisfaction. I can rely on the Lord. Yes, that's important. But I want it to be made very well clear that God created us all unique for a purpose. Not everybody is going to talk like your pastor. You don't need to talk like your pastor. You don't need to talk like the TV evangelists. You don't need to dress like them. You just dress appropriately, but you dress how you feel good in. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm ruffling feathers here. I mean, I didn't really plan on going here, but this isn't really about dress so much as to acknowledge that you have a unique gifting from God. We've heard stories or seen maybe TV shows where you've got that kind of, I think I remember a Brady Bunch episode, for those who remember Brady Bunch, where I think it was Jan was enthralled by an ant that was some world traveler, kind of eccentric ant. We've all heard kind of those stories about that ant who wore kind of strange clothes, or maybe she wore clothes from different cultures that she had visited. Just she was a unique bird. You know what I'm saying? I love that. I love it when things break the mold. That's why, in certain ways, I like being able to talk to you guys in this format, because I don't really get to talk to people this way. And I love it. I'm an engineer by trade. I don't think I could go around and do this at business meetings, So you have a unique, awesome strength within you that I don't want to have be quenched or diminished. It needs to be brought into the light, is what it needs to be. I don't know if you feel like you don't fit in because you're, who you are just isn't like the other people. You probably fit in more than you know, because there's a lot of people that feel the way you do. And there's a lot of people out in the world that are fakers too. You know what I mean? They fake. They act like they think the world wants them to act. And they hit their middle life and they wonder why did they not feel satisfaction in the first half of their life? I think it's because they weren't themselves. Well, if that's you today, cheer up. There is hope, because no matter when you discover this about yourself, today is a new day. That's the way how God operates. He looks point blank at you and says, you know what? Today is the day of salvation. Today is the day of new beginnings. So if you're still breathing air, then you can make a change, and you can acknowledge who you are and the unique gifts you provide. And my challenge to you today is to actually activate those things. If you didn't think that you could make it as an artist, but you have this artist thing within you, then do it anyway. Do it anyway. If you have a uncle, you have an uncle that doesn't know the Lord, but you've felt this thing in your heart for many, many years that said, I need to talk to him about something meaningful, more than just the banter that we typically talk about at Thanksgiving. Make that call today. See how he's doing. I don't know. There's a million different things that we might quench in our life. Speaking of family, I think this is a good place to realize that our families, as we were kids, our families played a kind of major role in developing who we are. I mean, God put a certain DNA in you, certainly, but your family also did too. They were the environmental impact in your life. And I'm just wondering, have we thanked them? Mom and Dad, I want to thank you for raising me. As a dad, I know that it's not easy to do that. And I know that it would mean a lot to me if my kids came back later in life and told me this. So I guess I'm doing it right now. Mom and Dad, thank you for putting up with my nonsense. And thank you for giving me discipline, because I do know the importance of it now. Now as a father, I know the importance of it. And I thank you that you kept me from going off the rails. And I pray that I can continue that with my kids. And to a large extent, I believe that my wife and I have been able to do that. But I want to thank you for the sacrifices you made, even for the Christmas presents that I gave you I rolled my eyes about that. I really did want those socks, okay? I really did. Because I know without socks, it's really rough. So, thanks. Thanks for those socks back in 78. I really appreciated them. Thanks for putting up with me in my Cub Scouts uniform that needed to be washed like in 10 minutes before the meeting. I'm sure there was probably a time when I needed you to do that. So thanks. Thanks for teaching me how to tie my shoe. Okay, I could go on and on, but I'm not gonna. You know what I mean? I understand that it's important. And so thank you. So let's see what else is on the agenda today. It's almost 3 o'clock and I'm headed to work. Now, you might think, what are you doing? But I'm thinking, I had a lot of today to do a lot of chores that I would have done when I got home from work tonight. So I'm going to just go to work and enjoy the fact that I got my chores done when I was alive and kicking, as opposed to when I'm dead tired after work. So that worked out okay. And I think that I'll be able to put in a decent amount of work today. Not a full 8 hours, but, good amount. I drove into town today because I had to get an extension cord, because all my extension cords are still back in a storage spot. So I had to go buy another one today. So I decided to drive down to our True Value store downtown. And I tell you what, I don't know what it is, but small town America, I love it. I love it. I love visiting the big cities, don't get me wrong. But something about that just made me joyful on the inside. There's no other word to describe it. Happy is just too overused. I had joy. I'm sure that it helped that the gentleman behind the counter with the long hair was very friendly to me, offered to even put some stuff in the trunk for me, some heavy stuff. I'm sure that was part of it. But I just, driving into the small town, I used to think small town, I don't want it. Not enough to do. Well, I'm close enough to bigger towns that it's not like I'm missing out. But I don't know, something about that really spoke to me this morning. I think partially it's just God just saying, He gave me a wink. He said, this is where you knew you needed to be, and I just helped get you there. So thank you, Lord. So I don't really have a whole lot to talk about today. Yesterday I had that silly thing happen where I had part of my podcast was not recorded, and it bummed me out, and I thought, ugh, I really had some good information there, and it's forever in the breeze now. But I didn't let that bother me. You know why? Because I really believe that God has a word for all of us in season. That means the word for us today was what I said today. And the word we need tomorrow, it's what God's going to give me for tomorrow. I never have to worry, I don't think, that I missed it. Because I've still got God. You know what I mean? I still got God. That is a good feeling. That gives me joy like I had this morning. Before I wind down, there was one other thing I wanted to say. The thing about my dog, she's domesticated. It means she's been trained. She's learned certain discipline. And that's how things should be for us. But that didn't negate her wildness, her uniqueness. And I just wanted to draw back to that as I wind down today, is that's kind of how we are. We're disciplined by the Lord, but the discipline is really to help us find those guards and guides, if you will, so that we don't fall off the track, so that unique wildness in us can really manifest. Because that's what we're created for. That's what I want to say. So let that be a lesson to you. Let us be disciplined, but let us be wild. Sound good? All right, well, you stay in the Word. You live in peace, and pray for those who persecute you. And be a wild child. And I will see you on the flip.